My son's shocking declaration of eviction exposed a hidden truth that changed everything forever. Tom's hands trembled as he turned the key in the lock, dreading the moment he'd face the walls that felt like they were closing in. Another grueling day of leaky pipes and faulty toilets pushed him to his limits. And yet, when he stepped inside the house, what awaited him was far worse than any plumbing issue. An eviction notice clung to the door like a sore thumb, a stark reminder that hard work wasn't enough. He felt like the floor had been pulled out from under him, and he took a shaky breath, that familiar feeling of despair creeping back in. For years, Tom had followed his father's creed. Hard work is sacred. That mantra echoed in his mind as he trudged through each difficult day, fixing things for others while his home fell apart. His wife, working double shifts as a waitress, was exhausted from the burden they both shared. And then there was Jake, their teenage son, who today was deeper in his thoughts than ever. Tom felt the weight pressing down on him, carrying his dreams, their dreams, and unspoken resentments. Yet it all felt like sand slipping through his fingers. "Dad!" Jake's voice interrupted his thoughts, bringing with it a storm he hadn't anticipated. "Did you see the notice? We're losing everything." The words hung heavy, each syllable an arrow piercing Tom's heart. "Maybe it's time we start fresh, even if that means moving on." Jake's declaration was charged, revealing an anger steeped in discontent. Tom's confusion morphed into outrage. How could his son say such a thing? Their dinner was meant to be an escape, a time for laughter, but instead, it transformed into a battlefield. "You don't get it!" Tom shouted, frustration boiling over. "This house, this life, it's all I have left to give." But his words fell flat as Jake's dark eyes burned with an intensity that left Tom unsettled. Maybe he didn't get it. Maybe he had failed his son in ways he didn't yet see. Before their argument spiraled deeper, Jake stormed upstairs, leaving Tom in the thick fog of anguish. He was pulled deeper as he remembered his father, their family legacy built on hard work. And yet here he was, staring at a life unraveling with every bill arriving late. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications, so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As darkness fell, an uncanny quiet echoed in the house. The walls seemed to creak with discontent, and Tom wandered to the attic, seeking solace or distraction. He stumbled upon old boxes, filled with the remnants of a family history. Hidden documents caught his eye. Papers detailing a trust set up by his own father, intended to support generations beyond him. The shock of the revelation hit him like a freight train. Could this be the answer he was looking for? The very idea of relying on old money clashed with everything he believed. The night loomed heavy as he grappled with conflicting feelings of shame and relief. Could he break free from the chains of his own relentless pursuit of hard work? But with that came the fear of judgment. Not just from the world, but also from Jake. How could he choose between their home and ensuring a future for his son? Tom's heart raced, his mind a whirlpool of self-doubt and yearning, as he felt their lives hanging in a balance. As he descended from the attic, he half expected Jake to still be upstairs, lost in thought or fury. Instead, he was met with silence. A silence that screamed louder than the arguments they shared. Deep down, both of them stood at the brink of something monumental. As they confronted their fears of identity and legacy, one question hung in the air, thick with tension. What do they truly want? Tom awoke to a morning that felt both anxious and electric, its weight pressing upon him like the eviction notice still lingering in his gut. After a sleepless night, he lay there, wrestling with the implications of what he'd discovered in the attic. The trust set up by his father, a lifeline in a sinking ship, seemed like both a gift and a curse. Could he have the courage to embrace it without compromising his identity or values? As he pulled himself from the bed, he noticed Jake's door slightly ajar. Should he face his son, the confrontation lingering like an unpaid bill? Yet in this moment of uncertainty, he understood that avoidance wouldn't solve anything. Today he needed to prioritize communication over conflict. The cycle of resentment that had grown between them had to shift. "Jake?" he called softly, opening the door further. His son sat at his desk, headphones on, immersed in whatever world lay beyond him. Tom hesitated. How could he approach the gnawing need for resolution when all he felt was guilt? He took a deep breath and stepped inside. "Can we talk?" The request sounded small against the backdrop of their mounting tensions. Jake removed his headphones, peering at his father through a haze of confusion and irritation. "What is there to talk about? You don't understand anything," Jake retorted, a hint of his earlier anger flaring back. Tom felt the familiar pang of defensiveness, but today he refrained from engaging in a heated argument. Instead, he took a seat on the edge of the bed. "I know it might seem like I don't get it, but I want to understand where you're coming from. Maybe we're both trapped in our own views." After a moment's hesitation, Jake sighed, relenting just enough to demonstrate his willingness to let Tom in. "It's just, I feel like we're stuck. You work all the time, and Mom is barely around. It's like we're just going through the motions. I want something different." Tom's mind raced as he processed his son's confession. He realized he had been so fixated on holding everything together that he had forgotten to nurture the very relationships that mattered most. "I know this has been hard on you, and I can't imagine how neglected you must feel. But I thought working harder was what I needed to do to keep us afloat." "But we're not afloat. Just look at what's happening here." Jake's voice trembled with urgency. Within that charged atmosphere, Tom felt the growing responsibility swelling beyond practical realities. "I've been thinking," he started, choosing his words carefully. "Maybe instead of fixing everything alone, I could use some help. Your help." Jake pursed his lips, skepticism etched on his face. "What does that mean? Are we just going to sell out to this trust money? That's not what this family stands for." The discord sent a jolt through Tom. "I can't let pride destroy what we care about." A thought sparked, illuminating possibilities. "We could start fresh, together. Use this trust as a potential springboard. I could teach you what I know about the business, and you could share your ideas. You may even have insights that could elevate us beyond plumbing and repairs." The silence that followed felt monumental. Tom's proposal hovered in the air, teetering between hope and doubt. Jake's brow relaxed slightly, but uncertainty flickered in his eyes. "You mean, like, business stuff?" "Exactly. If we're going to move on from this, we'll need to build something new. I need you in this, more than I have ever acknowledged. And maybe I've been so caught up in my own struggles that I lost sight of what you need too." Tom admitted, swallowing his pride. The weight of their shared dilemma felt different now. It's no longer antagonistic. Jake seemed to shift, his posture loosening, as the weight of expectation lessened. "Maybe we could think about it, but it has to be about both of us." "Absolutely. No more doing this alone," Tom replied, feeling a flicker of relief. As they both pondered this nascent partnership, each came to terms with understanding and vulnerability they had both avoided for too long. The possibility of a future reshaped by collaboration felt painfully hopeful, yet laden with unanswered questions. Just then, a flurry of unexpected realizations struck Tom. Could his son's ideas truly transform their lives? he suddenly felt the need to confront his own biases about family, pride, and growth. And in that pivotal moment, as father and son exchanged wary glances, the realization hit. They were standing on the brink of something greater than the fear of eviction. Was it courage they needed to invest in their legacy? Or perhaps the more daunting endeavor was to evolve as individuals? The clock was ticking. A decision loomed that could alter everything. Would they risk it altogether? The air crackled with tension as he posed the question. But just how far could they go together? Tom's mind was still reeling from the weight of their conversation when he felt the divide between him and Jake begin to dissolve, even if only slightly. The potential for collaboration ignited a tentative spark in him, yet doubt gnawed at the edges of that spark. What if this vision of a shared future was merely a fragile dream? Their lives had been navigating relentless storms. Would putting faith in this partnership simply invite more turbulence? He stepped back into the hallway, his heart racing as he replayed every word spoken. An idea took shape, bold yet terrifying. What if they organized a small project together as their first venture? Something manageable to test the waters of their new dynamic without overwhelming either of them. But what project? The trust's money looming over them felt like a shadow. Could it be used wisely without compromising everything he held dear? As he pondered, a soft knock on the door near the attic reverberated in his mind. Memories of rummaging through dusty boxes earlier that week flooded back. The attic had both sheltered dreams and dusted sadness, but within its mess lay the beginnings of this new path. Tom resolved to turn that attic into a positive space where they could work on their venture. "Hey, Jake, how about we clean up the attic today? We could set it up as a space for us to brainstorm and work on that project together," Tom proposed, a newfound enthusiasm breaking through his earlier trepidation. Jake, still caught in the aftershocks of their earlier exchange, appeared hesitant. "You want to go up there?" His brow furrowed, the uncertainty creeping back into his voice. "Yeah, let's make it our headquarters. A clean slate for our ideas." Tom felt his own resolve strengthened by the light of possibility. "You'll see. Once we dig in, it'll change everything." Reluctantly, Jake finally nodded, pulling himself away from the desk, skepticism still swirling in his gaze. They walked towards the stairs in silence, the tension palpable but shared now. As they ascended into the attic, Tom's heart flickered with hope, laden with realism. Could he create a space of enlightenment amidst lingering expectations of darkness? The attic smelled of neglect. Dust danced in the beam of sunlight creeping through the small window. Boxes lay scattered, a puzzle of their past, with parts of Tom's life tugging at the corners of his mind. As they began clearing, memories surfaced. Old tools of the trade, family photos, remnants of dreams stacked high, each item evoking laughter, sorrow, and the timelessness of their legacy. With each box they tackled, they unearthed fragments of stories that shaped their lives. Jake's initial resistance slowly subsided, curiosity emerging as they began to engage with not only the items, but each other. "Dad, check this out," Jake exclaimed, holding up a tattered baseball glove. Ruminating on the past infused their interaction with warmth. Tom found himself reminiscing about sun-drenched afternoons spent under the same sky that loomed over them now. During the endeavor, a surprising realization emerged, not just for Tom, but for both of them. Working together ignited a new language between them, one that communicated their desires, fears, and ambitions without the weight of confrontation. The time spent unraveling their past began to weave a bridge towards a shared future. Yet, even as moments of laughter punctuated their labor, a fundamental question loomed unaddressed. What if the old ghost returned? What if unresolved issues threatened to sabotage the fragile connection they were building? Did they possess the resilience to not just clear the physical clutter, but also confront their emotional dilemmas? As the final box struck the floor, a sense of clarity surged within Tom. They'd made progress, but it was only the beginning. The clock continued its relentless tick, and a new tension sparked. Would they have the courage to confront the deeper conflicts that remained? Both men stood amidst remnants of their past, but could they genuinely unify to build something extraordinary? Tom met Jake's gaze, a hint of uncertainty mirrored in his son's eyes. And he realized that the true challenge wasn't in the project, but in their relationship's evolution itself. Would they be brave enough to face the complexities within their bond moving forward? The attic stood transformed, yet the air was thick with unspoken words. What compromises were they willing to make in pursuit of their dream? How much of themselves could they genuinely share? The next step loomed before them, a crossroad imminent, as unease settled back in. And in that quiet tension, the future awaited. As their eyes locked, an unspoken question hovered between Tom and Jake, suspended in the humid air of the attic. Tom felt an electricity ripple through him, a potent blend of hope and fear. This was a pivotal moment, but how to address it? The attic, once a mausoleum of half-remembered dreams, now stood transformed. Yet the unseen barriers remained. Tom shuffled through a cardboard box, sensitive to the weight of the silence. The attic had failed to stifle their past, but it could serve as the crucible for their future. Each item they unearthed was a reminder of the family they had been, of the man Jake was becoming, and of Tom's role in nurturing that growth. But who was Jake now? And where did that leave Tom? Dad, I think we need to talk. Jake finally broke the silence, his voice echoing softly against the wooden beams. Tom's heart sank. This could either solidify their bond or shatter the fragile framework they had worked hard to erect. "What's on your mind?" Tom replied, steeling himself for whatever was to come next. After a hesitant pause, Jake spilled out words, heavy with emotion. "I'm tired of feeling like I'm living in your shadow. It's like every decision we make is tied to your expectations. I want to break away from that." Tom felt as if the floor had shifted beneath him. Was this the truth he was afraid to confront? The demand for autonomy was bubbling beneath Jake's surface. A storm brewed in the silence. It was both liberating and terrifying to articulate those feelings. "What do you mean?" Tom tried to mask the tremor in his voice, leaning into slight anger to shield the vulnerability that threatened to rise. "We've been working so hard to connect and build something together." "Exactly!" Jake's frustration flared. "But at what cost? It feels like I'm expected to want what you want. When was the last time we discussed my dreams, my ideas?" The confrontation pierced through Tom like a hot knife. The sentiments rattled loose his own insecurities. He had dedicated so much of himself to salvaging their relationship that he hadn't realized he might be imposing his fragility upon Jake. How could he have been blind to this? Tom took a deep breath. "I guess I've been so scared of losing you that I forgot to ask what you want." The admission hung heavily, revealing the tangled weeds of his own vulnerability. Jake blinked, surprise flickering in his gaze. "I don't want you to lose me, but I can't pretend I'm okay absorbing your vision anymore. I had my own life, one I've neglected." The exchange stirred something deep within Tom, recognizing the yearning for independence intertwined with familial love. Could he let go of the reins without losing his grip on their connection? Tom was faced with a choice: cling to the illusion of control, or embrace the liberation for both of them. "Then let's build something that's ours, together. But I need you to show me your path, too." A cautious hope sparkled in Jake's eyes, yet uncertainty lingered in the corners. The attic had brought them face to face with their fears, but it also had the potential to catalyze genuine change. "Okay." Jake nodded slowly. "But I need time to think about what I want first. I can't just invent it in a day." As Jake's back turned to delve into another box, Tom felt a mixture of pride and uncertainty. An understanding dawned in him. Jake's journey toward independence did not conflict with their bond, but could enhance it. But how to support him without trampling on his feet? The question loomed precariously, teetering over the fragile ground they'd just begun to cultivate together. With Jake digging deeper into the contents of their past, the reality of the present overshadowed Tom's thoughts. An uncharted path lay ahead. His commitment to Jake needed to outlast his own fears. Would they leave behind the baggage of expectation and forge ahead as collaborators, instead of captives of their emotional scars? Tom's heart raced as he directed his gaze toward the emergence of sunlight breaking through the attic window, illuminating not just their surroundings, but their potential. The deeper conflicts awaited exploration. Would they both embrace the unknown and relinquish the fears tethering them to their past? The choice to act, to dismantle old patterns, loomed heavily in the air. Two lives teetering at a critical juncture. As the sunlight expanded across the neglected space, so did the dawning realization. Transformation not only required hope, but courage. What would they discover in each other's truths as they stepped deeper down this path? The cliff of commitment awaited their next decision, urging them toward a leap of faith into a future neither had dared to envision. As Jake sifted through the contents of another box, Tom struggled to rein in the spiraling thoughts. What if there was an unbridgeable gap between their evolving expectations? Jake's declaration of independence had awakened something in Tom. An internal debate about his own desires, fears, and the way he had approached fatherhood. He had prioritized connection, yet amid those efforts, it seemed he had inadvertently stifled Jake's growth. Let's talk about it then. Tom ventured cautiously, peering over at the chaos of memories strewn across the attic floor. What do you envision for yourself? Jake paused, the question hovering like the dust motes dancing in the sunlight. I don't know yet, he admitted, his voice shaky. But I want to explore my interests. I've been so wrapped up in trying to make you happy that I lost sight of what I'm passionate about. He glanced at a rusted bicycle frame peeking out of the box, remnants of carefree days long gone. Tom's heart sank, yet a flicker of understanding sparked in him. The bicycle was a symbol, a representation of freedom, exploration, and the uncharted paths they needed to navigate together. It swirled memories of childhood into a cocktail of nostalgia and longing, as he recognized his own past intertwined with Jake's potential future. Tell me what those passions are, Tom urged, feeling a new sense of urgency. You don't need to have it all figured out now, but we can explore it together. You're allowed to be adventurous. Jake studied the floor, a myriad of emotions flitting across his face. I loved painting as a kid. Why did I ever stop? He reached for the bicycle, brushing his fingers against the frame. I used to dream about traveling, seeing the world. But I drifted away from that. All the focus was on... He hesitated, clearly grappling with the weight of the expectation. On me. Tom finished for him, the admission weighing on his chest. Here lay the crux of Tom's own reflection. His fear of appearing inadequate had enveloped Jake's chances of self-discovery. You deserve to explore those dreams, and I need to support you in that. The silence that followed roiled within Tom, quickly evolving from fear to an earnest determination. Embracing Jake's independence required a deep surrender, a re-evaluation of what it meant to lead. This wasn't an ultimatum for either of them. It was a collective journey forward. Tom's impulse surged. A vision danced in his mind. What if we took a weekend? Just the two of us. We can do some painting outdoors, visit that art fair you loved, or even just explore a new city. We can reconnect, outside of my expectations. Jake's brow furrowed as he considered it, uncertainty battling excitement. That sounds good. But what if I still get lost in your plans? Then I'll step back and let you find your own way," Tom assured him, the sincerity in his voice surprising even himself. "It's time for you to navigate your own lives. No shadows, just sunlight. Let's figure it out together." As Jake's eyes flickered with cautious hope, Tom felt a surge of motivation. This was no longer about rebuilding a fractured relationship. It was about supporting each other's truths and desires. They were embarking on a journey of mutual discovery, transforming their dynamic into one of partnership, not dependency. Yet, the tension remained, a thin thread woven throughout the air, reminding them of the emotional baggage still to unpack and confront. There lay answers within the very dreams Jake had yet to articulate fully, and Tom sensed they had barely scratched the surface. A shiver ran down Tom's spine as he realized they stood on the cusp of both liberation and peril, uncertain of what awaited them next. Could the commitment to support one another cultivate the growth they both yearned for? The attic, once shrouded in memories, now brimmed with the potential to transform their lives. What revelations would arise when Jake stepped fully into his passions? Would Tom find the strength to continue empowering his son, now emerging from the shadows? The answers awaited exploration, but precarious questions loomed larger than ever. Tom's heart raced anew as he returned his gaze to Jake, anticipation brewing. What would this weekend of exploration reveal about each of them? Would they emerge transformed or entangled deeper in their patterns? Only time would tell as they stood together at the threshold of their unfolding adventure. Tom found himself in a contemplative haze as the sun set behind the horizon, its fading light casting warm glimmers across the attic clutter. The rusted bicycle now held a weightier significance, emblematic of bifurcated paths. One of guardianship steeped in tradition, the other an uncharted journey of exploration. Each passing moment, fraught with possibility, amplified the undertones of hesitation in his heart. The next morning came with a faint chill, the freshness of the day laced with potential. Tom could sense that this weekend would not only shape Jake's budding identity, but also crystallize his own role as a father. As he packed their supplies, he recalled Jake's passion for painting. The connection to creativity was palpable, echoing with his own youthful dreams long neglected. He fumbled with the paints, brushes, and canvases, a medley of colors that somehow represented both freedom and constraint. "Are you ready for our adventure?" Tom called out to Jake, who was lingering in the doorway, still processing the spontaneous commitment. At that moment, Tom was more than just a father. He was also a partner in exploration. Jake nodded, a mix of excitement and trepidation radiating from him. "Yeah, let's do this. I've actually been thinking about that landscape I always wanted to paint." "Then let's find that landscape," Tom encouraged, feeling a swell of pride. In his son's aspirations, he caught a glimpse of his own youthful spirit, reigniting embers of creativity stifled long ago. They set off, a tumultuous blend of ambivalence and hope intertwining around them as they ventured to a nearby park, known for its scenic outlooks. As they arrived, the expansive beauty of nature unfolded before them, a stark contrast to the clutter of the attic that had previously encapsulated their relationship. The vibrant colors ignited Jake's enthusiasm, but Tom couldn't shake off the creeping self-doubt. Uncertainty loomed. If Jake flourished here, would Tom become a distant memory in the backdrop of his son's success? With an easel set up, Jake began to mix colors, his hands moving instinctually. There was joy in the way he deeply engaged, as if each stroke was not just of paint, but of rediscovery. Watching, Tom felt a familiar pang. He could see his son embracing this new identity, yet the fear of becoming irrelevant marred his joy. "Are you okay?" Jake asked, glancing up, concern etched across his face. "Just thinking," Tom replied, forcing a smile, even as his insides churned. "Don't worry about me. Focus on what you want." The words tasted foreign, freeing yet laden with anxiety. If he was to let go, he would have to confront his own fears of inadequacy and redefine his identity, not as a needful anchor, but as a supportive wind beneath Jake's wings. The day wore on, each moment filled with tentative laughter and budding connection, yet the internal conflict surged within Tom vigorously. Each unanswered question lay heavy atop his heart. Who would he be without the role of the guiding force? As the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, an unsettling realization dawned on him. Letting Jake explore meant that he too needed to explore, an unfamiliar territory fraught with risks. Perhaps it was time to pick up his own brushes, to find his canvas amidst the whirlwind. Maybe I should try painting too, Tom suggested suddenly, surprising them both. Jake looked up, enthusiasm budding visibly. That would be awesome. You should. But the turbulence remained. What if he failed? As Tom dipped a brush into the paint, the hesitant scraping against the canvas echoed like a heartbeat, grounding him in the present. Who had he been all this time? Uncertainty gnawed at him deeper, unraveling a long-buried realization. Supporting Jake's independence would inherently challenge his own. Just as he began layering colors onto the canvas, a creeping dread surged as he began to grasp the vastness of the transformation. Was he ready for it? Their perspectives shifted as both father and son confronted their insecurities on this newfound terrain. As the day waned, Tom wondered anxiously what other insights the weekend would unravel, both personally and about their relationship. What lay beyond the vibrant strokes on the canvases was still uncharted. The deeper the exploration went, the more they would reveal about themselves. A sudden thought struck Tom with force. Had he been living a life of color, or merely shades of gray? As the shadows lengthened around them, he couldn't escape the brewing storm of emotions ready to spill. What if the answers they discovered fractured their bond anew? The road ahead now paved with vivid imagery. Was it merely a fresh beginning, or an entanglement of complex challenges? Only time would lead them further into the heart of emotional revelation and contracts yet to be forged. The next morning came with a stark brightness, the sun spilling into the attic and illuminating the dust motes that danced lazily in the air. Tom blinked against the vivid light, his heart racing from fragmented dreams where colors collided, revealing shapes he didn't recognize. He sat upright, the remnants of yesterday's exploration pulsing in his mind. Today he felt an urgency beneath the surface, an undercurrent that drove him to confront the emotional weight of fatherhood intertwined with self-discovery. After a hurried breakfast, Tom watched Jake closely, noting the fresh determination etched on his son's face. The canvas from yesterday still leaned against the wall, a testament to their collective leap into uncertainty. "So, what's the plan today?" he asked, feigning casualness as he tried to mask his own inner turmoil. "I want to paint something bigger," Jake replied, excitement boiling over in his voice. "Maybe we can try a mural outside." The thought electrified Tom. Here was Jake, ready to take ownership of his passions, eager to make waves in the world. Would he be okay with letting Jake's creativity soar while he remained tethered to doubts of his own? Immersing himself in his son's aspirations signified a need for change, a fierce awakening to his own unrealized aspirations. "Let's do it," Tom responded, more boldly than he felt. "Where do you want to start?" As they mapped out their plans, Tom felt his heart race with apprehension and hope. He needed this momentum. That urgency whispered once more, filling the spaces where he had long left unanswered questions bottled up inside. With supplies in hand, they ventured to a large blank wall behind the garage, the unassuming canvas for Jake's imagined art. As Jake took to the wall with uninhibited strokes, Tom busied himself mixing colors, their laughter echoing off the surface, mingling with the lively chirping outside. Yet as Jake thrived, Tom's own insecurities resurfaced, bubbling just beneath the surface of each smear of paint. "Dad, you should really try painting a section. I want to see your style," Jake called over, turning to him with eager eyes. The request troubled him. "I've never painted anything like this before." Doubts piled high like clouds obscuring the sun. What if he embarrassed himself? What if he failed to meet Jake's expectations? The very expectations that now mustered such courage within his son. "Just give it a shot. It'll be fun," Jake insisted, determination palpable. Something cracked within Tom. Those very words struck a chord. Fun. Something he had pushed aside for so long in favor of responsibility. Wasn't this what he needed? To reclaim joy amidst the chaos of parenting and self-doubt? Finding a brush felt like wielding a sword, igniting a buried embers of creativity deep within. He hesitated, but with Jake's encouraging glance, he stepped toward the wall. As he dipped the brush into vibrant green, the first stroke felt like a liberation, a reminder of a time when he had the freedom to create without fear. The colors blended together, and he began to lose himself in the rhythm of his movements, creating without a blueprint. In that moment, the self-judgment faded, replaced with a blossoming excitement. "Look, that's awesome!" Jake cheered, his voice urging Tom forward. For the first time in years, Tom found himself immersed, not just as a father, but as a human being willing to rediscover lost facets of himself. With every stroke they shared, a new dynamic unfurled between them. Conversations deepened, their laughter ringing out as freely as the paint dripped down the wall. Yet with every splash of color, the shadows of fear lingered. A nagging doubt resonated within him, whispering warnings of vulnerability. Could he let himself fully embrace this new sense of self? As the mural took form, so did a burgeoning awareness. This exercise in creativity wasn't merely about painting, it was about dismantling the barriers he had built around his identity. Within that growing canvas lay the potential for self-acceptance, but the deeper question ripened as they added layer upon layer. Who was he capable of becoming? As he stepped back to view the mural, he felt a mix of pride and trepidation. The lives they painted together bared fragments of both their identities emerging into the light. With the sun casting long shadows behind them, he contemplated the complex mess of emotions that colored the morning. And just as he turned to Jake, his son squinted toward the fading sun. "Dad, what if we invited some friends over to see it? I want to show everyone what we created together." The thought propelled Tom into new anxiety. Could he face others in this raw, unguarded moment? Would he find solidarity or judgment in their gaze? As he wrestled with the idea, he realized the tumultuous connection they were forging might not only redefine him, but echo in new interactions yet to come. Just at the edge of revelation, Tom understood. What if he was ready for this intersection of courage and vulnerability? Standing before the freshly painted mural, Tom felt a thrilling spark of unpredictability. He turned to Jake, igniting a brave spark that could alter everything. "Maybe we should do it," he said, bolstered by newfound resolve. But beneath that confidence loomed an undeniable truth. The idea of revealing their journey was as daunting as it was exciting. Would stepping into the light bring clarity, or would it expose cracks they weren't ready to confront? With the sun setting, shadows danced along the fresh paint, refracting the tension between what had been and the possibilities awaiting them. They might just be at the beginning of something transformative, but Tom sensed the deep chasm of self-awareness widening beneath his feet. What lay ahead for them as they opened the door to friendship and risk? The weight of expectation hovered. Was he prepared to uncover deeper truths, not only about himself, but also about the bond he shared with Jake? The following day dawned brightly again, the vibrant colors of the mural still fresh in Tom's memory. As sunlight streamed in, painting patterns across the attic floor, he felt an unusual blend of anticipation and dread. Today they would face the world beyond their garden, exposing their work and, in many ways, themselves. Tom couldn't shake off the feeling that this outing represented more than just sharing art. It was a test. He glanced at Jake as he prepared a backpack for their friends. His son folded the invitation cards with a precision that belied his age, confidence radiating from him like the sun. The sight invigorated Tom, but also highlighted the stark contrast brewing inside him. "Do you think they'll like it?" he asked cautiously, hoping to mask the knot of anxiety twisting in his stomach. "Of course! They'll love it!" Jake reassured, an enthusiastic grin breaking across his face. "It's not just paint, it's our story." Tom nodded, but he couldn't help but think back to the disappointment he often felt around his own stifled passions. What had he created, really? He inhaled deeply, trying to dismiss the voice that questioned his worthiness, but found it stubbornly persistent. As they headed out, he realized that this mural wasn't solely a testament to creation. It was also a mirror reflecting the fears he grappled with. An inadvertent proclamation of vulnerability. At the park, the group of Jake's friends arrived, giggling and rushing toward the wall. As they marveled at the colors and forms, their approval quickly turned into a chorus of praise. Tom felt a wave of relief spread through him, mingling with an undercurrent of uncertainty. Had he truly earned the affectionate glances? Was he genuinely part of this world Jake seemed to navigate so effortlessly? Or was he standing on the periphery, caught between a longing to join and a fear of exposure? "Let's show them how we painted it," Jake exclaimed, pulling at Tom's arm. "Come on, Dad. Let's do a live painting session." There it was again. The intersection of vulnerability and courage, a challenge presented so brazenly by a child who had believed in him. Tom's heart raced. He could dim the light of his insecurities, accept this challenge, and reveal the dynamic between them. Or he could get swallowed by doubt. "Yeah, let's do it," he said, summoning a resolve that felt foreign but invigorating. The moment he picked up the brush again, there was a spark of familiarity, a flicker of that liberated sensation he felt yesterday. The laughter around him echoed louder, even as he felt the eyes of the children upon him, their expectations tangible. Yet, as he started to paint again, every stroke felt magnified under scrutiny. He concentrated, blending colors that seemed more vibrant, but with every swipe, he sensed judgment brewing beneath the surface of their excitement. Was it as simple as Jake had suggested? What if he didn't match the expectation, despite the few fledgling sparks of creativity he had unveiled? "Dad, you're already doing it," Jake cheered, backing Tom up. "Just go with the flow." The relief was instantaneous, swallowed whole by the pulsating urge to prove himself worthy, not just to Jake, but to the swarm of insecurities that coiled around his identity. Could a simple act of painting transcend the boundaries he had long fortified? Were he and Jake creating something more than lines and colors? The crowd's energy intensified, fueled by curiosity and camaraderie, and encouraged by Jake, Tom began to paint with fervor. As the kids chimed in, offering ideas and sharing the brush, something inside him began to shift. The mural no longer felt like an isolated project. It was a collaborative rendition of dreams and identities mingling together. A familiar warmth surged within him, focused and determined. Perhaps revealing himself wasn't about exposing cracks as he had feared, but rather enfolding that vulnerability into the fabric of their connection. As they stepped back to admire the evolving mural, Tom felt the air around him thrum with a new possibility. This was no longer just a painting. It was the embodiment of transitions, a testament to his willingness to show up with authenticity. But just as the exhilaration peaked, a voice from the crowd broke the moment, questioning the absence of a certain character he thought he had left behind, a memory that tugged at the edges of his newly minted confidence. "Hey, isn't that your dad?" a boy yelled. "The one who used to paint at the center?" Tom froze, fear racing through him once more. An old wound reopened. Could he confront this part of himself in front of Jake and his friends? Would they see his past as he had feared? An embarrassing relic of failure? The eyes of children, once glimmering with admiration, now felt like a spotlight. The moment hung in the air, thick with tension, as Tom navigated between the desire to reshape the narrative and the shadow of his unacknowledged past. Would he rise to reclaim this story, transforming it into a triumph? Or would he let the weight of old perceptions crush his new identity in front of those he so desperately wanted to impress? With uncertainty looming, Tom realized he now danced on the edge of something challenging and transformative. The moment felt more profound, a revelation about to unfurl. What unexpected truths awaited him in this confrontation? And would he be prepared to face them? The moment hung, thick with the anticipation of judgment. Tom's heart raced, the laughter and chatter of children swirling around him, a distant echo as his mind zeroed in on the boy's words. The one who used to paint at the center. It felt like a label, heavy and suffocating, dragging him backward into memories that still stung like salt on old wounds. It was true. Years before life led him to this garden of fresh starts, he'd been that struggling artist. His dreams of creative success slowly suffocated by the weight of harsh critiques and personal failures. In those days, paint was his solace, but it had also become a prison. The walls of expectation high and unyielding. The mural, vibrant and alive, stood fiercely against the shadows of his past. And yet, one offhand comment threatened to unravel it. Tom shifted, grappling with his thoughts while the children awaited his reaction. Should he respond or brush it off, pretending the comment hadn't cut through him? He noticed Jake's wide eyes, a mixture of confusion and concern knitting his brow. Did he sense the turmoil roiling inside Tom? Or worse, had he perhaps inherited the seeds of doubt? I did. Tom finally managed, his voice coming out steadier than he felt. I used to paint there. The admission felt raw, like a fissure opening anew, but he pressed on. It was a special place for me, where I could explore my creativity and share it with others, even though it didn't quite go as I dreamed. He swallowed hard, the words tasting bitter. Unexpectedly, he felt an urge to reclaim that narrative, to shape it into something that wasn't merely a tale of failure. This was not just history. It was part of his journey, and perhaps a lesson for Jake and the others. The mural behind them became a testament to that journey. Every brushstroke a battle won against doubt. Jake stepped closer, taking hold of Tom's hand, anchoring him amidst the emotional turmoil. But you're an awesome painter now, Dad. Look at what we made together. There was something unmistakably profound in his son's faith, urging Tom to lean into the moment, to transform vulnerability into strength. Amid the curious gazes, Tom began to realize that he stood not just as a father, but as a person. Fully flawed, yet determined. Instead of shrinking beneath the old weight, he could rise, not just for himself, but for Jake, embodying a message of resilience. Raising his voice slightly, he addressed the group. You see this mural? It's not just colors. It's about everyone who helped create it. It tells a story of growth. Every setback I faced took me one step closer to this. This moment of joy and collaboration. The children leaned in, intrigued, their initial trepidation replaced by curiosity and acceptance. The atmosphere shifted as Tom actively painted again. His strokes now infused not only with color but with the essence of experience, the acceptance of who he was and who he aspired to be. Every line he drew became an opportunity to rewrite not just his past, but a narrative that invited his son and the kids into a shared understanding of progress. Jake's laughter filled the air, buoyant and infectious, igniting the same spirit within the others. They began to contribute, their hands painting over his, blending their vibrant imaginations into a collaborative masterpiece. Tom steadied himself within the flurry, discovering that this beautiful chaos was not just a reflection of his vulnerability, but an elevation of strength, a personal reclaiming of his artistic identity. As the mural evolved, its vivid colors shining brighter with each stroke, Tom felt a palpable sense of release. The fears that once chained him dimmed, giving way to an understanding of self that had been overshadowed by despair. He was more than the past. He was emerging anew, each brushstroke echoing purpose. But just as he began to feel the momentum shift entirely, a doubting question emerged from the crowd again, piercing through the veil of newfound confidence. Was it really that great, though? Why don't you paint there anymore? The words came from a boy sitting along the edges of the group, rooted in skepticism, challenging Tom to justify his renewed spirit. Tom paused, the breath catching in his chest, the probing eyes now his own reflection. Would he further ignite the fears lingering in the background, or would he embrace the query, allowing it to deepen their understanding? The mural stood as a testament of resilience behind him, but Tom recognized this moment was much more than a display. It was an invitation to confront the truth, to chart a course full of transparency, and to discuss the complexities of growth. He knew the answer lay not just in the response, but in the confrontation of his evolving identity. Feeling the weight of the moment pressing on him, Tom prepared to guide this discussion, ready to take the first step into whatever this next chapter had to reveal, both for him and in the legacy he hoped to leave for Jake. Tom stood in front of the mural, the colors swirling around him, reflecting the tumult of his thoughts and emotions. The weight of the boy's words echoed in the air, and he felt the undeniable urge to confront not only the question, but also the shadows that had haunted him for far too long. He understood that this was a chance to transform doubt into an opportunity of growth. Not just for himself, but for every young soul gathered around. Greatness for me was never truly a destination. He began, projecting his voice with clarity, a newfound strength suffusing his words. It was a journey filled with stumbles and triumphs, creativity unleashed and then stifled by fear. I stopped painting at the center because I lost touch with why I began in the first place. I let expectation take the lead, thinking hard work alone would fill the void. But here I am, back at it, exploring the depths I once ignored. The crowd leaned in, a hushed silence falling over them as they absorbed his story. Even Jake's face shifted, attentive and proud. His eyes encouraged his father's raw honesty. Tom continued. I thought painting to please others would validate my experience, but I've learned that true artistry lies in authenticity. When I painted for myself, it captured not just a canvas, but a piece of my identity. That's what we're doing here today. Every splatter and stroke we make reflects our journey of family, dreams, and growth. Together. Applause erupted. Young voices chimed in, echoing their belief in him, sharing their own stories while wrapping themselves within the tapestry of the mural. The fear that had threatened to bubble to the surface transformed into momentum, colliding with Tom's clarity. Fresh joy coursed through him, an exhilarating validation that creative energy was not just for him to own. Face to face with the children, he realized it was their collective vitality. With every mixture of paints, hands moving over the canvas, they built something more than a mural, a living testament to resilience and authenticity. Do you think you could help us lead the painting club, Tom? One child asked, her voice sweetly resonating within the newfound camaraderie. It struck him. A full transformation now awaited beyond this facade of uncertainty. Yes, I would love to, he replied, excitement bubbling forth. Jake's pride was palpable in the air, and Tom felt that the walls he had lived behind for so long began to crumble. The trust he held in the community around him reflected the very process of building bridges, rather than remaining sidelined, teetering precariously between divergent lives. In the month that followed, Tom not only led the painting club, but also nurtured the budding creative spirits of children around him. Each session reinforced the connection he fostered with Jake, and fortressed the confidence pushing his boundaries daily. They reveled in discussions where their individual aspirations intertwined, growing together with passionate hearts igniting the canvas before them. Tom often caught Jake stealing glances at the mural they had initially painted together. It stood boldly in their garden, a vivid reminder of the transformative weekend, but also the foundation of a collaborative father-son relationship. The colors reflected joy and struggle, merging their identities into one, a symbol of commitment and understanding that would endure even when the days grew dark. Every weekend became an intertwined dance of exploration, both artistically and personally. They set boundaries for their dreams that expanded far beyond the limitations which had once held Tom captive. One day, as Tom reflected on his journey, he felt a sincere sense of accomplishment. He had evolved from merely addressing the tasks at hand into embracing the intricacies of fatherhood. Out of genuine devotion, he learned not only to celebrate Jake's dreams, but to reclaim his own. Perhaps art, in its purest form, was the greatest teacher, inviting vulnerability while forging resilience, binding their lives in ways words could scarcely articulate. As he watched Jake splash paint against canvas with unrestrained exuberance, Tom was filled with gratitude. They had built something extraordinary, not just a mural but a legacy of love, courage, and self-acceptance. And as he stood beside his son, heart swelling with pride, he recognized the greatest achievement wasn't the mural itself, but the journey they had forged together. A lasting tribute to growth, compassion, and the art of living authentically. Their mural remained a lighthouse amidst uncertainty, a celebration of life's messy beauty, always reminding them that embracing vulnerability was not a sign of weakness, but rather the most potent way to achieve true fulfillment. Tom took a breath, an exhilarating wave of self-acceptance coursing through him. Every color brushed against the canvas now represented layers of transformation, a testament that they had not just conquered the past, but that they had emerged triumphantly stronger. As the sun slowly dipped behind the horizon, casting golden light upon the vibrant mural, Tom knew their story was far from over. This was just the beginning of a beautiful narrative, an ongoing masterpiece crafted through resilience. Now, dear viewers, the tale of Tom and Jake reaches its poignant conclusion, but the journey of personal transformation is never ending. You need to subscribe now to be part of our community, where every story empowers and inspires. Leave a like now to fuel the algorithm and spread these powerful messages. Comment your reflections on Tom and Jake's growth and what you hope to harness within your own life. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this incredible journey of overcoming darkness and celebrating light. This is the moment to show your support for stories that matter. Don't wait. Even one more second. Action awaits.